Hey everybody, in today's quick tip we're going to take a look at the workflow for programming counterbore holes. Let's go ahead and get started. I have a job already set up and I have a 0. Let's go ahead and right click on our machine setup and come down to Mill Counterbore Hole. Now when you click Mill Counterbore Hole, it will start the Mill Hole Wizard. This is a hole wizard for machining counterbored holes. The first step is to select our geometry. Now it may make sense initially that you may want to select both the clearance hole and the through hole, but the way the wizard works is we're going to just select the through hole. Okay, so we're going to start with just this one and then we're going to choose OK. From there it will read the hole diameter based off the geometry I selected. It's defaulting to our 1/2 inch depth, so we're going to change our depth to 1 inch. Okay, when it comes to the hole diameter for the clearance hole, we're going to type in that value. It defaulted to 3/4. We're going to just type in a value of 5/8. Okay, and then for our depth, we're going to type in the depth that we want to go. Now from there, we're going to choose next. At this stage, there's a couple of things that we could do. Again, we could change where we start cutting, how deep we're going, and the counterbore depth. If we had selected multiple holes, we could break up the groups so we could jump clamps and things like that. But really at this point, we just want to go to the machining strategy and take a look at the operations that would be posted with this feature. One operation is the spot the hole. The other one is to drill the hole. The other one is to drill the counterbore. This method is if you're using dedicated tooling, a counterbore drill tool, where you're going to drill in order to put the counterbore into your part. Now we can check our drill and its parameters. We can check the counterbore and its parameters. And if we're happy with our results, we can just go ahead and hit compute, and then that will process our first hole. We'll spot the hole, then we'll drill the hole, and then we'll drill the counterbore. Okay. All right, so that's the first way you could process counterbore holes. Let's take a look at another way. We're going to go through the same process, insert counterbore hole. All right, we're going to select our geometry. Again, we'll select the through hole and then choose OK. All right, we'll set what the depth that we want to go. We're going to set the size of our counterbore and its depth as well. Okay, this time when we get to the machining strategy, we're going to make one significant change. Instead of using a counterbore drill, we're going to use a counterbore mill. And a counterbore mill just means we're going to profile the counterbore clearance hole versus drilling it with dedicated tooling. Okay, now at this stage we have our spot drill, its parameters, our drill and its parameters, and then we have our counterbore. Now you'll notice that this is set to 3/8. We could change this to any tool size that we want. Again, these are the parameters as far as how deep we're going to cut. Once we're happy with our settings, we can hit compute, and you'll see this one looks a little bit different. We'll come through and spot the hole, then we'll come back and drill the hole, and then we're going to basically profile the counterbore. It will start in the center of the hole, it's going to work its way out, and then it's going to come back up. All right, now both these two hole features here, they have all the tools to spot the hole, to drill the hole, and to do the counterbore. The difference between the two is one drills the counterbore, the other one mills it with a profile. Okay. All right, let's take a look at this next hole here. All right, this time we're going to break it up a little bit. We're going to insert the mill drill hole. We'll select our geometry. We'll choose our through hole. Okay, we'll set what our depth is. And then in this case with our strategy, we just want to do a hole cycle, so it will spot the hole and drill the hole. Again, we can look at our spot drill and its parameters, and then our drill and its parameters. Once we're happy with our settings, we can hit compute, and then what that will do is just drill the hole out. Now the next thing we want to do is machine the counterbore. For this example, I want to use a pocketing cycle for this. So we're going to do insert mill 2-axis, select geometry. We're going to pick this geometry here. We're going to set the depth in which we want to cut to. Okay. From there, we're going to choose a pocketing routine. With this pocketing routine, we're going to use spiral pockets for circles. We're going to soften up our step over here, and then we'll go ahead and compute this. And what this will do is give us like a spiral routine to come in there and put the counterbore in versus just a profile to work its way in and come out. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and copy this feature and paste it. All right, I'm going to reselect this hole here. It is important that if you do just copy and paste features and you haven't turned off use cutting conditions, you will lose some of the depth values and settings for that cycle. So we're going to go ahead and set the drill to the proper depth at this point, and then now we're going to look at using a profile to mill this counterbore. In this case, I'm going to use mill 2-axis, select geometry. I'm going to select the clearance hole. I'm going to type in the depth that I want it to go. All right, I'm going to make sure my chain is selected counterclockwise. All of that looks good. In this case, I'm going to do a profile routine. I'll use the 3/8 end mill, but I'm going to use a contour ramping routine. This will be like a boring cycle or a helix. I just need to adjust maybe the depth per pass, and then I'll recompute this, and then this will give us like a helical move to come in there and to put that counterbore into it. Okay, so again, just a couple of different ways in which you can approach creating counterbores. The takeaway is with the counterbore drill, you're using a counterbore drill tool that will come in and machine the counterbore in one shot. The next step is to use a counterbore mill. The counterbore mill will call an end mill and just profile the wall and come back out. Okay. The third method that we showed here is we drilled the hole and then we came back and did a spiral pocket for the counterbore. And then the final method here, we drilled the hole and then we did some helical milling to come in there and put the counterbore clearance hole into our hole cycle here. Whatever method works best for you, it'd be great to know. Just comment in the video, whether this is on Facebook or YouTube. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Thank you.